So it's not just a list of all the assets, it's actually a whole database that holds your asbestos information, your Legionella, your revenue costs, your energy costs, absolutely everything. And that's what we finally managed to get in Stockport. Again, I had the luxury of time. You don't. The pressure is on to deliver that information. All the information now is in one place, and the database that we use became live, so that the practitioners on the ground used that. Instead of all their spreadsheets, they updated the database with the asbestos information. They update with Legionella. We have the planned maintenance programs in there, so you can tell at a glance whether everything has been done and whether there's anything been missed. And with all the scares of Legionellas in my day, we had to make sure we could do that. So having spent 3 years doing all these radical things back in 2002 and 3, what was the benefit? What did Stockport get out of it? Well, for once, they actually understood what they owned, where it was, and how much it cost. Another big thing that we pulled together was the management of the contracts. There were numbers of contracts all over the place, for lift contracts, for planned maintenance contracts. We pulled all those together and made huge savings in there. Obviously, a reduction in duplication, and I mean staffing resources as well. We had caretakers. One would work in social services, one would work in another department, but they'd be going to buildings next door to each other. So we actually spent the time in retraining the staff, making them facilities managers, so that they were skilled in doing all the things that needed to be done on a visit to a building. We could make decisions on information. We could actually back up the reason why we were doing things. Another major thing, which took a long time to be fair, was a single help desk. There must have been about 5 different areas where you could either ring up, send an email, report some problem with a building. We have one now. I've left Stockport, I keep forgetting. But also, more importantly, we were able to prioritise our spend. So we could look at the revenue budgets and we could see where we were spending our money and where we needed to spend our money, both in revenue and in capital. And the way that I sold it at the time was to say to the services, you concentrate on your service delivery and we will concentrate on looking after your properties to make sure that your properties are fit for purpose. We will worry about the property, you worry about the service. Having sat very nicely in public sector for 25 years, I was approached at the end of last year for the opportunity to move into TerraQuest. And I kind of laughed when David said there are a lot of good people leaving local government and taking VER or going off, and the silver-haired data experts, I'm employing them. I've got 3 already that have come to join me who have in particular done innovative things within their local authorities and have led the way and done special things. And I think that their experience and their expertise is absolutely invaluable to helping other organisations deliver new ways of working. So these are most of the clients that we're currently working with, trying to, rather than actually go in and tell them the time, we're sitting there and working with them and working through them because of our experience in the public sector. And I feel very privileged to have worked in the public sector, and the public sector ethos I understand very clearly, and that is so important. And Heather stressed the involvement of members and understanding what they want out of a property portfolio in particular. I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but it was really to say and just make you remember to actually ask you yourselves these questions. How exposed are you? And I think the one thing that I'm finding frustrating now in the private sector, going back into the public sector, when I ask the first question, do you know all the buildings and land you own? Of course you do. You are not going to tell me that you do not own that, nor are you going to tell your chief exec that you don't know that. But I bet you don't. And it's pretty much what Heather said, shame on you. But it's very much getting this database to understand what you know. And when the chief exec asks you, he doesn't want to wait 6 weeks for that information. He doesn't want to wait whilst you trawl through God knows how many databases to get that information. And the same applies for the second question. Are you fully aware of its condition and the liabilities? Have you got those proper processes in to manage your Legionella? Do you know where your asbestos is? And the third point, which comes back to the single property budget, do you really know what it costs to run your estate? And I mean in totality. And again, that information is probably there. I don't deny that. But it's where is it, and it's how quickly can you get your hands onto that information. The fourth question is really about the citizen. How relevant are some of your buildings and service locations today? Do you really actually consider the citizen and what they need? The Asset Pathfinder work is trying very hard to bring the two together, the property and the citizen. And I was involved latterly with the Wigan Pathfinder, and it's very difficult to understand as a property person why that property is needed, why it's in that location. And you have to start working with those service providers. You have to break down the walls. You have to get under their skin to understand why they want the property that they have. I used to be very passionate about saying, I know why you should get rid of a building, but that was purely from a property point of view and the condition. But you need to work with them to make those decisions and make them correctly. Again, the Asset Pathfinder is very good at looking at the common services and how they can be located. And using my example at Stockport, we developed an estates group of all our colleagues in the same professions, in the police, the fire, the PCT, the NHS, and we all started working together. And the first thing that we did was map all our buildings. Fortunately, we had a database where we could add all that information. So we very quickly got a view of where all those buildings are. And then you can start work, and you can start working with the service deliverers to say, this is a deprived area. Between us, we've got all these buildings. How can we start thinking about locating? Use property as a catalyst to deliver change for those service deliverers. So I'll ask you again, how exposed are you? I don't expect you to answer, but I'm sure you can think about it on your way home. How to get to the future and how to get to where Heather has obviously achieved in Lancaster is very much, why can't you be the person that sets up the estates group in your place? Why can't you contact your colleagues and start talking about the joint opportunities, at least just from a co-location point of view, that may drive the service change? Identify the public sector ownership, see what you've got, see what you're playing with. Not only do you identify the properties, but there are also opportunities for reducing running costs. The first thing we started looking at between us was energy. We were all procuring energy. Were we doing it in the most efficient way? Could we make savings? And we identified who was getting the cheapest rates, what we could do about reducing those even further. We obviously looked at co-location opportunities and also collaboration. We were all sat round the table. We were all head of property. We all had property teams. Didn't like it much because we felt like we were turkeys and we were voting for Christmas, but in essence we were all doing the same things. There must be opportunities for saving and actually running those organisations' property portfolios in a better way. So we ourselves could collaborate. And then the ultimate achievement we were going for was an estate strategy for the place, not just for the local authority property, but for the place, and trying to use other organisations' properties to fulfil the needs of the citizens. So what I'm saying to you today is, you lead that transformation. Don't wait to be transformed. Hopefully today will inspire you to go back to the office and actually do something and start working on the agenda for your place and meeting the government's agendas. Thank you.
Thank you.